Welcome to the Courageous Canine Podcast, where the fur is real, the love is strong, and the health advice is actually useful. I'm your host, Michael Pickens, holistic health researcher, dog dad, and part-time treat dispenser. We started this podcast because, let's face it, dogs deserve better than mystery kibble and vet bills that cost more than your car. This show is all about empowering you, the dog parent, the pack leader, the one who Googles, "Why does my dog eat grass at 2 o'clock in the morning?" With the tools and knowledge to keep your pup thriving. Each week, we dig up the freshest insights from holistic dog health experts, dedicated rescuers, and everyday heroes who are making a real difference in the lives of our four-legged friends. Whether you're into natural diets, medicinal mushrooms, chakra balancing belly rubs, or just wondering if hemp oil is the canine cure-all it's hyped up to be, you found your pack. So grab a leash, a cup of bone broth for you or your dog, no judgment, and get ready to wag your way to wellness. At 35, Tabitha was thriving, enjoying a successful career in the medical field, living an active lifestyle with CrossFit 5 times a week, and feeling on top of the world. But everything changed in January 2020, like many, when she contracted the first strain of COVID-19 virus. Her health took a dramatic turn, leading to autoimmune complications and a life-altering diagnosis of MS that reshaped her daily reality. In the face of this challenge, she turned to podcasting as a way to stay connected, educate, and build community. Her dogs became her anchors, offering comfort, motivation, and a sense of purpose. After celebrating her beloved Frenchie Rupert's 2nd birthday, she was devastated to lose him to cancer just 30 days later. His loss taught her the depth of grief, but also sparked a mission rooted in wellness and the animal she loves. Rupert's memory continues to inspire her journey. Today, she lives with intention, driven by a passion for health, healing, and the precious bond we share with our pets. So Tabitha, thank you so much for coming on our podcast. You know, I've been a guest 3 times on your podcast, so I'm excited to have you come on my podcast. Going back to your MS diagnosis and the starting of your podcast and your journey with Rupert, I want to kind of talk about how that all happened. So if you want to go ahead and just dive into that, that'd be great.
Sure. I'm so honored to be on. It's nice to be on the other side and kind of hear and see all the action. My Frenchies are going wild as we speak. So I actually had a very healthy lifestyle, was doing CrossFit multiple times a week, and I was working in the medical field, and 2020 came along and COVID really upset my system. I got the first strain. I had no idea what it was. In the health field, we didn't know what it was. And it was something that just really took a toll on my health. It took a toll medically, mentally, physically, emotionally. It literally just shut my system down. And I was 35 years old. I was in my prime. I loved my life. I had an amazing opportunity. I had everything kind of planned out. And it's obviously led me to deep diving into my healthcare, getting autoimmune, recently an MS diagnosis, but really realizing that I still have the key to what my future looks like with my health, with my well-being, and really kind of taking a look at what I'm ingesting, what I'm putting into my body, whether that's big pharma, whether that's products. Obviously, you and I met that way. Your gummies are keeping me alive. And it is truly just really deep diving into what makes me feel good, listening to my body, listening to my mind. And that also goes with kind of how my dogs have kind of come into my life now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so let's talk about that. So you started your podcast, you're up to like 5 million listeners, so you're doing really good, right? And then all of a sudden, something happens with Rupert, right?
Yeah. Yep. So I was the one that got my dog at a pet store. I know, shame on me. We all know better. We all know that they're not healthy. I always say that they choose us. We don't choose them. I randomly went into a pet store, fell in love with him. Of course, who doesn't fall in love with a puppy? And he came with all of these great, amazing health guarantees, right? And so when you're sitting in a room and you're spending almost $10,000 on a dog, you're thinking you're going to get a really long time with them. Unfortunately, he passed 30 days after his 2nd birthday, and I had no warnings. I had
Mhm.
no signs. He was my medical service animal. He knew me day in and day out. He was so connected to me, so bonded. He even knew if I had a migraine headache that would cause a lot of other symptoms. He was so in tune with me. And that's truly what I believe a soul dog is and was. And I don't know if you'll ever get that back.
Got it. So you had no warnings whatsoever. All of a sudden, what happened with the diagnosis? Did he start having signs that something was wrong and you took him to the vet, or?
No, that was the most wild experience. Obviously, when we think of cancer, when I thought of canine cancer, you think it's going to be in their elder years. I had a
Mhm.
senior that at the time was 10 years old. It was always the plan. She was going to go first. It was always, getting, Rupert in his prime, getting him used to being acclimated and socialized with people and pets. And we just randomly woke up one day in November. I had just recently relocated to Texas. So he had never been in cold weather. I thought that was kind of what contributed to that. He started to have a runny nose. Immediately took him. They said, oh, it's just an upper respiratory infection. Here's, medication. We were cleared to go back to Arizona for Thanksgiving, was excited to be around my friends and my family. And we cut our trip short. I drove 13 hours and rushed him back home to a vet. He just started to not feel himself. I was starting to really see a lot of runny nose, a lot of congestion. So we were doing a lot of steam showers together. Let me tell you, sitting in a bathroom with your Frenchie to stay still in steam for 20 minutes is nearly impossible. And when we rushed home, we noticed he was losing a lot of weight very rapidly. He didn't have much of an appetite. We went in and immediately did an x-ray. And that is when my vet and our entire lives changed forever.
Yeah. So with the X-ray, what did they find?
So when we went in, he had a mass that was 2/3 his chest cavity. It had actually relocated his heart down to his lower intestines. Both of his lungs were pushed almost up to his spine. Hey, they're going to go wild. Come
That's
here.
okay.
So it pushed his lungs all the way up to his spine. And that's what was causing all of the congestion and all of the problems. And they stated there was nothing that could be done. There was no treatment. There was no specialist. Nothing could be done to save his life.
Wow. Yeah, and that's the trouble, right? With humans, if there's something wrong with us, we can say it. We can tell someone. We can tell the doctor. We can tell, our friends, family. We can say something. With dogs, you just don't know, and a lot of times it's too late when the symptoms start showing. So, can you talk a little bit about that? Because you have other Frenchies now, right?
Yeah, you can probably hear him in the background. I have 3 of them. 2 were from a breeder. 1 is a rescue. She's the love of my life. They all are. She's the one that's quiet right now. She's sitting next to me like they're crazy. Yeah, I think it's something where the symptoms is truly what caught me off guard. I had a lot of friends that had canines that had cancer. A lot of them were skin cancer. A lot of them were showing a lot of symptoms, a lot of signs, and you were able to prepare. And I always tell people preparing for the demise of the loss of your animal is nothing that you would ever imagine. But when we have our senior dogs, you get to see them decline. You get to see, their grays. You get to see them, with the arthritis. And then a lot of times comes the growths, the cancer, stuff like that. Having a 2-year-old that had cancer with absolutely no sign was something that I never imagined I would be put in that place. And then you're kind of in that fight or flight mode of what can I do to save their life? Where can we go? Who can help them? And hearing at 2 years old, after you just celebrated a birthday, that there's nothing that can be done. Even the vets that saw him, they stated it looked like internally he was in a car crash. There were items and, everything that was kind of misplaced, and they had never seen anything like it. And when you're a pet parent and you sit in a room and you hear that, you always wonder, why my dog? Why me? Why did this happen to me? And when you have no options or answers, you feel cheated, severely cheated.
Yeah, but you've taken this devastating situation and you're kind of turning it around, right? And advocating for prevention. Is that correct?
Yeah, when I got the news and actually processed it, it was something that has forever changed my life. I'm learning never to take a moment for granted. I'm learning to really realize that our dogs are not with us for a very long extended period of time. But it also really made me advocate for not only where you get your dogs from, because we're seeing a lot of pet stores, we're seeing a lot of breeders, but we're also seeing a lot of medical conditions come out of every single option of where you receive your dog. And it made me realize, what if we can change this? What if we can slow this process down, even when there's no signs? What if there is a preventative? I got really close into deep diving into my medical health. And it was something I realized I never really did that or focused on that with my dog. And we want them to live as long as possible. So why are we not treating them like we do ourselves?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, paying more attention to what we're feeding our dogs, the water we're giving them, obviously the time and the attention as well, but that has a little less effect than the food and the water and other environmental things like that.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring up the water because I was made fun of. I mean, I had my senior dog, she lived to be 14 and a half. I got her off of Craigslist. I think she was $150. She was like, the prime. And we would always laugh in our family. She would outlive all of us. She drank tap water. She had like the worst of the worst toys and the worst treats. But it's something where when I, now even with my 3 Frenchies, they don't drink tap water. And so many of my friends never realized the magnitude of all of the chemicals that are in there. We don't
Yep.
drink it. We don't like the taste. And it's so interesting when people come over, they're like, oh, your dogs get filtered. And it's interesting because now we're seeing this huge adjustment. I'll say it's an adjustment
Sure.
because we're kind of retraining our brain as to how we're treating our animals and what we're giving them. But tap water was the number one thing people would laugh at.
Yeah, and that's the thing. We don't know what we don't know. So we have to have grace with other people, because there was a time where I didn't realize it and I was giving my dogs tap water or overcooked kibble. We just don't know. But as we learn, then we're able to share. And that's one of the purposes of this podcast, is to educate people so they know, so they're not giving their dogs tap water because of all the chemicals that are being put in the tap water, the chlorine and the bromide and everything else, the anti-corrosion chemicals that just aren't meant to be ingested.
Yeah. And I think it was letting go of that embarrassment. I mean, when Rupert passed and I got him from a pet store, even in public, people would say, oh, he's so handsome. Where did he come from? And I'd always tell them he came from a breeder located in Kansas. There was this stigma of, I don't want to say like, I give my dogs kibble or I give my dogs tap water. So I think it's breaking that stigma of not being embarrassed and truly embracing the dog community and being honest with ourselves and others so that we can learn. That was my number one education in all of this so far.
Yeah, absolutely. So you said you have 3 new dogs now, right? And you got 2 of them from breeders, and then 1 was a rescue. Right, can you talk a little bit about that and your philosophy around it?
So my first female I got was really just luck of the draw. I got her from a breeder 2 weeks after the passing of Rupert. Rupert and her dad were actually best friends in the passing. It was something where, my best friend was her breeder and she's like, you have to have her. When you're in that devastating grief of losing your dog, especially your soul dog, you know that that's never going to be replaced. You know that you can't love another one. And I'm here to tell people you can love another one in a different way, shape, and form. You will love another one. But she came from a breeder. She was fantastic. Going backwards and having to retrain again was a nightmare. But again, you can do it. My second one, I knew I wanted a boy. And I found him and did a lot of research. I did the family history. I did the genetics. I asked for that, that history and that background. But again, there's no promise. They can't promise something, just like we can't promise our own health and, our well-being. And then my last one, I really ran the risk. She is from a rescue. She was born paralyzed. I vetted her immediately upon getting her. And we always laugh. I'm like, she was born without vertebrae in her back. She is paralyzed for life. But it's interesting to see kind of the dynamic and allowing them to just truly be their own personality, because you can love again in the most rare forms you'd never expect.
So she's paralyzed from the back, so she can't use her hind legs. Is that correct?
Correct.
What have you done to kind of help her get around? And obviously going to the bathroom might be an issue, taking her outside, what have you done and how has it been fulfilling?
I would say having a special needs dog at first, it was terrifying. I was very terrified. I've never had a special needs dog. Hang on a second. Hey, come here. Get down. They're going to all be crazy. Come here. Come here. Get over here. I'll put her in. So this is the one we talk about. This is Miss Kaya. Hello. So she's very tiny. She was born without her lumbar vertebrae. So she is continent, which is truly incredible, but she does wear a diaper. I'm 39. I always stated I never wanted children. And here I am doing 0 to 3 month baby clothes, laundry, putting her in diapers. but it's also been really truly adapting and learning about his special needs.
Mhm.
I was severely terrified of hurting her, doing the wrong thing. What's the right thing? And it's amazing because she was born this way. And I had to remind myself, she doesn't know any different.
Yeah.
I don't know any different. And so we're learning together. We're seeing a specialist. She's now seeing a chiropractor. She's doing incredible. Are you snorting like a pig? You're snorting. You sweet girl. I say hello. But she's been seeing a chiropractor. And it was something where, again, you're getting to kind of sit in that driver's seat. You're getting to choose what's best for your dog. You're getting medical attention. You're getting veterinary experience and expertise. But every dog is different. And, I've been very vocal in regards to her care and her treatment because she's very rare. And I've gotten a lot of kickback too of chiropractic care is terrible. Don't do that. Try this, try that. And it's something where I truly encourage every single person, bond with your dog, get to know your dog, and they'll show you what works. They'll show you what doesn't work. But she's completely different than my others. All of my dogs have a lot of different needs. So I always say we're kind of the defective house. Everybody kind of has a different requirement. But again, it's really truly learning the breed that you have and then adapting to that and also not being too hard on yourself.
Awesome. Well, you seem to really love Frenchies. And what is it about Frenchies that kind of draws you close?
They're a lot like me. At 5'3", I have a very big personality. I like to be lazy at times. I grew up, with German Shepherds and Mastiffs and very large dogs. My senior was a Mastiff Rhodesian mix. And I always said, I'm done. I'm done with the large dogs. I want something that cuddles. And now I always say they're like gremlins. They seem to multiply. Don't feed them after midnight. Don't get water on them. But Frenchies have obviously for the last 3 years, they are the top dog in regards to the AKC. The breed's amazing. But I think they're also kind of ebb and flow because people are understanding they're a great dog. They are great with children. They're very emotionally intelligent. They're bonded to their humans. But on the flip side, they have a lot of health conditions and they have a lot of problems. So you're kind of in that catch-22.
Yeah. Can you talk about both? Talk about the positives of the breed and then the negatives and go into that.
Yeah. Positive definitely is that bond and that connection. I would honestly state the separation anxiety is real with this breed, but I love it because if you want to go on an adventure, they're the top dog. If you want to go somewhere and travel, they're super easy to take in and out. I always laugh having MS and autoimmune. If it's over 80, I don't do so well. If it's under 60, my body doesn't do so well. They're exactly the same. So you usually can't have them out over 70 degrees. They can overheat pretty quickly. I always laugh 5 to 10 minutes of playtime, which is probably what you guys heard in the background. That's about it. They'll sleep for the rest of the night. But I would say the hardest part is definitely going to be those medical concerns. It's always the concern of what is coming next. IVDD, it's a degenerative disc disorder. It's something that, a lot of people are seeing with their dogs going down the back. It does require specialties. It does give you a short window if you need surgery or if they're eligible. And the cost, it can be simple from food allergies, IBD. We have that going on in this house right now with my female. Growth issues, we have that with my male. So there's a lot of different medical concerns that I think has really deterred a lot of people. And that's also why we're seeing a lot of this breed in the shelters. People don't have the money to keep up that, that daily cost of them.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. The breeders obviously are they overbreeding and that's causing a lot of Frenchies in rescues right now?
Yeah, I think probably the first couple of years before they were kind of the big thing, right? The big breed, the big dog, the dog that you needed to have. We focus more then on the colors, which are going to be what the AKC sees as a French bulldog color, which is, the brindle, the black, the cream, the fawn. But then we started to kind of play God. And a lot of these breeders realized we can do them bigger, we can do them bulkier, or in Kaya's case, we can make them micro. There is no such thing as a micro Frenchie. Hence why the way she looks, and she was bred that way, even paralyzed. Then we started to kind of create those colors, right? People wanted to have the Merles, which are not a registered AKC. I've learned with my female Merle, when you have that double dilute and the mixture of the colors, you're going to start getting a lot more medical concerns and issues because it's kind of, going down the line. Gotcha. Then we're starting to see the big ropes, which have the massive rope when already they're a brachiocephalic breed. They have trouble breathing it as it is. Then we're getting into the fluffies. So I think it's taking the structure of what the dog was truly made to be. And we're just trying to play God and multiply and create more colors and just make them more accessible for us. And I think that's truly really started to become destructive for the breed.
That's too bad. That's too bad. So for someone considering getting a Frenchie, would you recommend a rescue? Would you recommend finding a breeder? What would you recommend?
I'm glad you asked that because I truly think that both are great. I
Mhm.
think it is a personal preference. I know a lot of friends of mine that have gone through rescue. It does come with behavior. It does come with issues because we don't know their history. We don't know their likes and dislikes. We don't know a lot of what their history will look like further. But you also don't, like, obviously with Rupert, we don't know that when we get him from a breeder. A lot of people also, they don't want to go through the puppy phase. I never knew this, but a French bulldog is supposedly not fully potty trained until after the age of 2.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So when people say, oh, the first, 6 to 8 months, your puppy stage is over with a French bulldog, you're not going to be very lucky. They do a lot of, 5 steps forward, 10 steps back. It's a bulldog thing. So I always say it's a personal preference. I love that I've been able to kind of be in the mix from getting my dog from a pet store to breeders to a rescue.
Mhm.
And I can honestly state it's truly how you raise them, the attention that you give them, the bond that you create with them. But I don't think that there's any right or wrong answer. I think it ultimately depends on what you're looking for, what fits your household, what fits your schedule and your time frame for training. Because I know with Rupert and my other two, I love the fact that I was with them from day one. I know exactly their triggers. I know what they like. I know what they don't like. But I also have learned that in having a rescue, she's over the age of 2, that she learns with me. And so that's also a beautiful experience, I think.
Sure. And then probably the feeling that you get from saving her, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because, as a medically challenged dog, the chances of her being adopted are probably lower than another Frenchie that didn't have the medical issues, right?
Yeah, she was born. I mean, physically and visually, you can see that she's deformed. I knew that when she was within the rescue that she was a part of, but I was kind of curious again. I think going through that traumatic experience with Rupert, I wanted to physically see inside. What does she look like? Is she deformed on the inside? But I also think on the flip side, that's also kind of that unknown because she does have a lot of special needs. She does have a wheelchair. She does run on her front legs. She's doing fantastic. When you put her in her chair, she gets a little feisty. She gets a little mad. But it's also seeing that special needs and that medical condition. It's also that unknown of how long will she live?
Mhm.
I could have a couple months, I could have a couple of years. But again, that's really grounded me to enjoy every day that I have and not take it for granted.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the case with, any dog breed, with any dogs. If you just focus on the day to day and taking advantage and
Mm-hmm.
making sure they get their walks in and get their good food and clean water
Mm-hmm.
and, all the love that you can give them, that's probably the best you can do. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. So, and I've always been asked from so many people, you lost your very first French bulldog. I did 7 years of research on the breed before I ever got him. My mom would laugh. She's like, you're kind of like the Frenchie whisperer. I'm like, I know the paw balm, the nose balm, the wrinkle cream, the shampoo, the supplements. And I think it's crucial for anyone that's lost any breed of a dog. You do the best that you can in the moment that
yeah.
you have them. And it was never a thought process of, was this the breed? Would I ever go back to it? You kind of find what works for you. There's days where I'm like, oh my goodness, like I thought you're supposed to be lazy and you're hectic and you're going crazy. But it's so amazing to be able to see, like with my two from a breeder, to see them learn together. They're only 2 weeks apart. Would I ever suggest doing that? Never get never get two puppies together. You will lose your mind. But it's beautiful to see them teach the rescue Kaya how to do things. But it's interesting because she came in very sassy at only 10 pounds. She definitely is the alpha of the household. And it's interesting to kind of see that balance. It's a breed that I would highly recommend to people, but please know what you're getting into before you jump into it.
Gotcha. Yeah. So she's only 10 pounds. And then how big are your other dogs?
Caden is known as Forrest Gump. That's his nickname. He was born as the runt. He is extremely delayed. So he technically stopped growing around 7 to 8 months. He is 18 months and he's only 15 and a half pounds.
Okay.
So he's my little man. Rylan just hit 29 pounds. She's
Okay.
definitely meaty and massive. And she comes in like her nickname is Ronda Rousey. She fits that to a T.
Oh, like a wrecking ball, huh?
She does. She's definitely a little boss, a little bit of a boss.
Awesome. Is there anything else you want to touch on about canine cancer, about the breed?
Yeah, I think with canine cancer, I think the ultimate thing and message I want to get across is advocate. Advocate for yourself, advocate for your dog. I know when I started to see these symptoms with him of the runny nose, the loss of the appetite, I went to multiple vets. And I
Mhm.
remember people stating like you're just looking for something wrong. And I knew in my gut, I knew my kid. We were
Yep.
very connected. I knew something was wrong. And so I always tell people it's okay. It's okay to go to multiple vets. It's okay to go to specialists. It's okay to drive hours and hours if you need to and advocate, because when you get that gut instinct, your dog, you're very connected. And I watched something on TikTok just the other day and it stated how there's different pathways in our nervous system in our brain that connect with a dog that don't even connect with another human or a child. We're very,
Mhm.
very connected to them. So I think that was my biggest downfall is I was very hard on myself of I don't want to upset somebody. I don't want to upset a vet. I don't want to upset a specialist, but
Yeah.
advocate and get those answers and ask the community. And if you don't know something, I think that's okay with any breed, especially with canine cancer. We're seeing a lot of different rare cancers kind of coming out because of, choices humans have made. And I think it's
Mhm.
okay to ask for help or just ask for more education.
Gotcha. Now, you've recently launched your own line of canine health supplements. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, so it's named Rue and Crew Nutrition. I always turn my boy's memory into my mission. I actually have his snout permanently tattooed on me. I made sure to get his portrait as well as I hate needles, but my whole entire arm has his ashes in it. So he's with me at
Oh
all
my
times.
gosh.
Yeah. So,
Okay. Okay. Wait. Talk about that. How did that happen? Because I've never heard of that before.
I actually saw it on social media. It's interesting. My senior, her nose and her paw print are on me as well. Her ashes are there as well. So you can cremate your dog, and when you get the
Mhm.
ashes, you are able to take it. I always suggest do not have your tattoo artist take it out of the urn. I learned that my second time. It just freaks them out. But you're able to take a little bit of your dog's ashes. It's literally just a very minuscule amount. They mix it
Mhm.
in with the ink and it goes and sets into your skin. It
Okay.
doesn't feel any different. So many people at the tattoo spot, they're like, this chick is crazy. But for those listening, when you lose your soul dog, you want them to be a part of anything that you do from there on out. I had his ashes in a necklace. It broke. I was terrified. I still don't know where it went. That was a whole just meltdown. And I remember seeing that online and people had stated you can put their ashes into your tattoo. So my whole entire arm piece, there's different parts that are darker. The butterfly, his ashes are in, and this is the time he passed. So that was the first thing I did. But turning his memory to a mission was very important to me. I still get choked up when I go to the vet. I don't park in that parking space. I just can't do it. They
Yeah.
laugh at me. That's okay. I always say I can't go in room number 2, but there's things that set with you forever. And I remember coming home that day and I was trying not to cry because I'm like, if I would have known something, I could have changed it. And
Yeah.
if I would have changed it, if I did this different or this different, would he still be here? And I had to get myself out of that guilt. It's been about a year and a half since he passed, but it still feels like yesterday. And I just wanted to help other people. And
Mhm.
you and I had a conversation. I remember when he passed. I'll never forget it. I received a Facebook message, and you're like, "We came out with a cancer line. This is fantastic." And I remember sitting there sobbing, and I'm like, "You're 6 months too late. Like it's just too late." But it
Yeah.
was interesting because I'm like, you know what? In that moment, it had to happen to somebody that understood it's out of your control.
Yeah. And I felt bad because I didn't know that your dog
Yeah.
had passed from cancer. So,
Mhm. Yeah. So I made it my mission that I never, if I could help it, and I could help again, educate, connect a community, support others. If there is a cancer support that's out there that could slow the process, it doesn't obviously get rid of cancer, but if it can slow that process and give you options, I wanted to give that to other people. I had no options. I had no time. It was going in, parking. I remember I went early that morning. I'm like, we're just going to go get another round of medicines. It's going to work better for your upper respiratory. Never in my life did I imagine I would be walking out of there without him.
yeah.
And that became my mission. So it's Ruin Crew Nutrition. I am so excited, but I wanted something that focused on from a puppy all the way to a senior, because I think that's very, very important. Cancer, obviously with Rupert and his memory, it can happen at any time. And I wanted that to be an option for everyone.
Yeah. Now you have a podcast as well, a little bit of Lifecast. Can you share your website or your podcast link?
So it's Little Bit of Life podcast. We've been out for over 3 years. I'm so honored of all the guests that I've had on. It goes from talking about celebrities to true crime to pets to everything. I always, told my audience, I never wanted to put myself in a box. Everybody learns something from everyone else. Interesting, before I came on here, I have a psychic medium that actually talks to dogs that have passed. She saw just my stuff on Ruin Crew Nutrition, and she's like, oh, I want to start a podcast. I do this for a living. So it's something where the podcast is on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, iHeartRadio, and we encompass everything. Everyone has a story, but I will say, doing this for over three years now, and I'm truly honored to be able to have the voice and the platform that I've built. I can't do this without my guests and, them coming to me with different ideas. It's truly amazing, because the one thing that always connects us before or after recording is our love for our pets every single time.
Well, that is awesome. Tabitha, thank you so much for joining me on the Courageous Canine. Your story is inspirational. And for those listening, do what you can to provide your dog the best life possible, and understand that cancer is something that may happen, and there's steps that you can take to prevent it. So
thank you for having me on. I'm honored.
So thanks so much for hanging out with us. But before you go run off and throw a tennis ball or accidentally say WALK out loud in front of your dog, just a couple quick things. If you want top tier human grade supplements for your four-legged legend, head over to ruincrewnutrition.com. That's RUAND crewnutrition.com, because your dog deserves better than synthetic supplements and multivitamins shaped like bones. And don't miss our next episode featuring the one, the only, the fur-covered force of nature, Freddie B from Freddie B's Furry Friends Rescue. He's got stories, he's got energy, and probably more rescue dogs than you have socks. Catch you next time, and don't forget the treats.